Gabriel Bonfim, Belal Muhammad, that is happening Saturday night, and it is a tight race. You can't really go either way or that way, this way or that. You can't choose. A lot of people, I imagine, going into this, their predictions, their betting, it's indecisive. They're not staking a whole lot on either two guys. At the end of this video, I will talk about who I do believe will win. But for the majority of this video, I would like to discuss or game plan for Bonfim. What can he do to win? Because although the odds are pretty neck and neck, I think when it comes to the MMA analytics or the analysis, Bonfim is not the favorite. He's not the favorite when it comes to the voices of MMA, the talking heads. Instead, he is being a bit counted out because this is something new for him. This is a new step in his career. This is a 5-rounder. He hasn't fought in any 5 rounds, whereas Belal Muhammad has. Belal has won title shots, and he has fought and main evented multiple times. He has proven himself to be able to handle himself in 5 rounds and not let the wheels fall off. But we have to take a look at his career as of late. Although he had that 10-fight winning streak, minus that one hiccup with eye pokes from Leon Edwards. Was it at Fight Island or something like that? Well, now he has 2 losses under his belt. And they're back-to-back. This is something that never happened before. I mean, early in his career, 2016, there was a loss, then there was a win, and then there was another loss, but it wasn't back-to-back. Now his losses are so close together, and they're what we have left of him, or what we have to go off of, because if you want to really take or figure out how this fight is going to turn out, I think it's not a bad idea. It's not conclusive 100% to look at the last 2 fights or the most recent fight, but it's a good bit of insight as to how much juice is left in Belal. How much juice is left in Belal. Oy. So, does Belal have that juice in him? Does he have that killer instinct, which he never had because he wasn't really a finisher? He would bully guys. He would take them down and bully them. I think he still has a bit more to give. But there is something worth mentioning or worth taking from especially his most recent fight, that you could apply to Bonfim and what he could do to Belal Muhammad. And it starts with the legs. It starts with also, you have to look back at Bonfim's most recent victory and how did he get that done? Against Randy Brown, he took out the legs bit by bit. He chopped, and eventually there was a close quarters moment where he was able to land a knee and shot his like electricity through Randy Brown, and he fell to the ground onto his back very hard, and the referee, he called it there. If Bonfim wants to beat Belal Muhammad, it's going to be necessary. It is crucial that he relies on the kicking game, low kicks, kicking at range. But there is a problem with that, a problem that is especially draining for fighters. And maybe it might not hold up for all 5 rounds. And this is where another key detail is. If you look at the fight that Bonfim did lose against Nicholas Dobby, it was when he was pressed up against the fence, when he was the one being bullied and smudged in and weighed down on, or wasn't really being weighed down on, but he was like catching his breath almost in that position. He was kind of out of it. A round had already passed. It was the 2nd round, and Nicholas Dobby, he started to Muay Thai it up. He started to, they boxed in the pocket, but most importantly, what got him out of the fight, what took the life out of Bonfim, is the knee to the head. He kept kneeing his chin in, and eventually Bonfim collapsed. It wasn't like he totally went out. He gave up, kind of. It's kind of how, although the fight of Bo Nickel and Reiner de Ritter, it wasn't to the face. The knee wasn't to the face, it was to the body. It's something like that, where it's more so about his grit and whether he's willing to stay in the fight. And in that moment, he was not, which is why I don't want him up against the fence, at least not with his back against the fence. If he needs to catch his breath, I think it's in his better interest to clinch up Belal and have him pressed up against the fence and lean on him and force him to dig under, get underhooks, and then churn things around and then find your space. You probably don't want him to turn you around. You probably want to separate at that point or keep fighting to keep him positioned to the fence, because it's a lot more exhausting to play defense than it is offense, which is why I don't really want him to be in the fence anyways. If he's backing up so much, he has the ability, the capability to react and strike and hit his opponent hard with a 1-2 or a check hook. That was very crucial in his fight against Randy Brown, that check hook. It's just too many steps backwards and continuing to allow your opponent to fight their fight. Eventually, it takes the wind out of you, and perhaps you back up too much and find yourself against the fence. It's going to be a bad night if your tank is starting to be emptied out, and now you're up against the fence, having to fight your opponent's fight and defend and get them up off of you. It might be a time where things start to change course, and Belal fishes out a win. So he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to really grapple at all this fight, because I think a habit of or not, I think I know a habit of Bonfim is in those fights where he grapples heavy. He is explosive with his takedowns. He's explosive on the ground, even because he's advancing positions, finding himself in side control, half guard, full mount, or taking the back. He's all around the world, really, when it comes to the ground game. He's all around the world when it comes to MMA. He has it all. But that is very draining on one person to do all of that. With all that capability and all that explosivity that Bonfim has, he wants to really dial it back and fight economical, just like, or not just like how he fought in the Randy Brown fight, but take a little bit of note taking. And, that was a good win. And also, like I said, when we were looking, we have to look back at Bilal's most recent fight. It's a good idea to do. And in that Ian Gary fight, he kept stomping on his knee and leg kicking. And of course, he was on his bike and finding himself against the fence. And that gave Belal momentary wins because he was able to grapple him and bully him on the fence a little bit. He wasn't able to take him down, but it's just enough where it looks like Belal is doing more. He's getting the better of the round. Of course, he lost that fight, but and it was pretty razor close, but it was a unanimous decision. Belal just has this tenacity through 5 rounds that Bonfim really needs to. He needs to win early. He needs to win the early rounds. Those are going to be his best rounds, no doubt. Playing it economical, because he just doesn't have the experience at this point in his career with 5 rounds. So naturally, the best decision, the best choice out of this multiple choice problem is to play it smart, play it slow and steady, win those early rounds by being economical, knowing that eventually your gas tank will tank. Most likely, given the history of your other fights, if you want to win, you got to play it slow and steady. And there's also another crucial point. I want him to use the right hand. I know he likes the check hook, but you have to understand, looking at Bilal's recent fight and looking at how everything unfolded after the JDM fight, it seems that he has a bit of wear and tear on his face right under his left eye. So the right is going to be important to open that up again and give himself a boost in points, because the judges can see the damage, the obvious damage from Belal. If Bonfim wants a win, he wants to open up wounds and continue to enlarging them as the fight goes on, and he wants to fight economical. And he does not want to wrestle or grapple, because that is too much to take out of your wind. Take the wind out of your sails, and then you start falling into the trap of Belal. You start getting bettered by Belal. Belal gets the best of you in that fight because he does have great inside boxing. Actually, he's actually very improved in that department. Where it was always pretty good, but he doesn't really rely on it heavily. But this fight, he might because he's a bit more dynamic when it comes to the striking. It's just that I think if we take a look at Bonfim's build and how his opponents react to his hits, I think he does have sneaky power that just hasn't been showcased as much because he is a submission kind of guy. But a submission will not be locked in against Belal Muhammad, so it is best to avoid that type of territory. Keep it standing, but play it economical. You might have to lose the later rounds, but if you're losing those rounds, it's best he doesn't find himself in a position where he's back against the fence, allowing Belal to tee off on him. And the only way to prevent a last minute outburst like this, where Bonfim is getting teed off, is to damage as much of Belal as possible and targeting those weaker points like his legs. His legs, if he doesn't have them, it's harder for him to go for a takedown, make those attempts, and also chewing up his face with the right. I think it's gonna cause enough damage to where Belal might be dissuaded from entering. It might leave him a bit disheartened, and that's gonna be his best answer rather than him being explosive early or dragging it out and not targeting certain points of his body, allowing Belal to catch later round victories. Is Bonfim gonna win though? No. He is not gonna win because Belal just has a naturally better gas tank. And it's by design, by the way they're built, because Belal, he's not some crazy explosive fighter. If he was, he would have TKO finish after TKO finish or even KO finishes. But he doesn't. He takes people to the ground or he bullies them up against the fence and he does land an onslaught of attacks, but it doesn't finish his opponents. He has this advantage over Bonfim. On top of that, he mixes it up very well and has dynamic kicks that can potentially land on the chin of Bonfim. And we saw in the later round with Wonderboy Thompson, kicks kept getting through, and Bonfim didn't look like he was all that much there at the end point of the fight. And it was hard to call it a decision for Bonfim, honestly. Honestly, you could give it to Wonderboy Thompson, but they gave it to Bonfim, and now he got that Randy Brown fight, and now he's at the dancing with Muhammad Belal. Belal is a surprisingly gritty fighter, although there was that fight with Leon Edwards where he did quit because of eye pokes. So you can't really discredit his ability, that dog in him. You can't discredit that because that was a wishy-washy type of way to go out with all those eye pokes. So I suspect that Bilal Muhammad will win this fight because he just is better acclimated to fighting in those 5 rounds. This is something familiar to him, whereas this is totally new to Bonfim, and also the way Bilal fights by design. He's not some explosive fighter who's gonna kill his energy early on in the fight and lose the later rounds. He knows he is able to strategize, mastermind a plan where he can fight throughout the whole fight and potentially have all rounds to himself. I mean, there's just another aspect to it is that Bilal, because he's not a finisher, that means he goes for decisions. And if you're going for decisions, naturally over time, you're gonna have that ability to take a beating perhaps in certain rounds, but be able to come back and find it in yourself to get the victory overall. Bilal's gonna win, but this is potentially or some okay advice for what Bonfim could do to get him the victory. Get that damage early, add some points, show the judges that wear and tear on Belal, maybe even chin him, and not have it as dangerous opponent in the later rounds, so it's easy to just kind of stall out those rounds and get the victory. Realistically, not going to happen, but it's something he could do. It's worth taking note. Thank you for watching the video.